In this episode of Movie Retreat, we're talking our top 10 favorite 90s horror movies. Let's jump into it. Chris, we're going to jump right into this list, but first, we got a couple of honorable mentions. We're not going to stay on these long. I just want to hear a couple that almost made your top 10 horror movies of the 90s that didn't quite make the cut. Maybe it's because it wasn't really horror, or maybe it was because it just missed out because there's so many good options.
So I got three. The first one is Tremors, and I love this movie, but I'm not sure if you'd call it a horror movie. It's more of a comedy to me. But I can understand an argument if people wanted to put it on their list. Pacific Heights is another one that I had on there, and I know we're going to touch on that a little bit because we both really enjoy that movie. It was like the 10B for my list. I just didn't want to, have an 11th movie on there. And then Outbreak is the last one. I know some people might not think that's a horror movie, but to me, especially when I was a kid and going back to, the pandemic stuff, I mean, that's a like terrifying movie if you really like think about the implications of that stuff really happening. So those are my three honorable mentions. And again, I can understand if you would say like Outbreak or Tremors.
I think Tremors is a horror. I'd put Tremors in the horror category. I'd say that's a horror comedy.
Yeah. I have another horror comedy that I like a little bit more, and I didn't want to have two or three.
But I feel like you like Tremors enough to where that would. So you're keeping out of the top 10 simply because you think it's more of a comedy. But if say we agree that was a horror movie, was that what kept it out of the top 10 basically?
Well, because there's just nothing about it that's scary, like at all. So to me, like it's hard for me to put it in the top 10 horror movies if at no point in the movie am I even remotely.
What about Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Oh,
horror comedy?
Comedy.
But that's still, it's got horror elements.
I would not put that in a top 10 of horror movies.
But Outbreak and the horror genre, huh?
Way more of a horror movie. Wild. Way more of a horror movie than Tremors. You cannot be serious.
We're gonna take a poll. Let us know right now. Is Outbreak a horror movie? Yes or no? Outbreak is a really good movie. Absolutely not a horror movie whatsoever. But that is what it is. I mean, that's okay. Pacific Heights, though, I will say I do love Pacific Heights. That's not on my top 10 list either because I think of that as a thriller. We're going to do that top 10 as well, like top 10 thrillers in the 90s because that was a great decade for thrillers. But Pacific Heights, man, is fantastic. I love that movie, and I love Tremors as well. And, I'll do that too. I'll take Tremors out of it too. We'll just talk about Tremors right now because Tremors would have been in my top 10, but let's just say it's not going to be in there. I think Tremors is fantastic. I think it is definitely, it's right at 1990, so it just makes the cut. But I think this is by far, if we're going to call it horror, I think this is definitely one of the top 10 horror movies of the 90s.
And that's why it's not on there. Like if you told me, if you were going to make it more broad and be like any kind of genre that's horror related, I probably would have had it on there.
There's probably a couple on my list and a couple on your list that we could have the same thing about. So we'll just roll with it. It's fine. But I will say this was a tough list. You forget how many different subgenres, like we're talking about right now with Tremors, there are in the 90s. So basically, this is going to be our top 10 list of the 1990s for the horror genre. These are just going to be our favorites, right? Did you do yours as like what your favorites are or what you think the best are?
Both. It's more my favorites.
Mine is too. Mine's more geared towards my favorite horror movies of the 90s as opposed to do I think this is actually the best? You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's jump into it.
What were your honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions real quick. I'll be quick on mine. Candyman almost made it. I think the performance and the iconic status of Tony Todd as that character elevate that movie way beyond what that movie actually is. I think that movie's it's just not for me really. I actually really liked the more recent Candyman that came out about 5 years ago. I really thought that was really well done, personally. I like that one a lot. I also had Jacob's Ladder on here. Tim Robbins, just a trippy movie. Kind of talks about different stuff like war and the, drugs that were taken during that time frame and all that stuff. It was really just well done and really wild. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was Lost Highway, simply because it's David Lynch. It's super weird. I tend to put it in the horror genre just because of how it used to freak me out, especially a particular character in that movie who's got like a video camera, just really creepy. And David Lynch always has those really wild imagery and just a crazy movie, man. Plus, shout out to Bill Pullman, who's just like one of the most underrated actors. But those are my honorable mentions right there. Out of all those three, is there anyone that What are your thoughts on Candyman? I feel like we owe it to Candy. You know, I feel like we owe it to Tony.
I'm with you. I feel like the performance is better than the movie. I'm not a big fan of the movie per se, but he's just so good as that character that you have to kind of pay respect a little bit to his work.
Yeah. All right. So here we go, Chris. Top 10 '90s horror movies. Let's start off with your number 10.
Number 10 for me is a movie that has two amazing actors, two guys that in the 80s and 90s were just killing it, and that's Cape Fear with Robert De Niro and Nick Nolte. I think what makes this movie great is one, Robert De Niro is just unhinged. Like he's one of the most like despicable villains that you could think of. That's not like, some kind of demon or something. He's just a normal guy. But you also kind of not sympathize with him, but you understand why he's going after Nick Nolte, because Nick Nolte did kind of do some shady things. But and Nick Nolte's always kind of played that like tough guy, and in this movie he's like the opposite. He's a family man. He's kind of he hires guys to beat up Robert De Niro, and that doesn't go well. But I just had to put this movie up there because it's just so great. It's tough to rewatch because it's just got a lot of like really tough stuff in it. But it's a movie that I had to put up there because it's just such a turn of what you normally see from both actors.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I think a lot about the movie theater scene with this one. Again, this is Robert De Niro elevates this for me. It is a Scorsese movie, which is wild. This and Bringing Out the Dead with Nicolas Cage late 90s are like two forgotten Martin Scorsese movies when you're looking at his filmography. But I like this movie. I mean, I've seen it one time. It just wasn't a movie I never wanted to check out again, and didn't have a huge impact on me. Even though I do agree, it is a creepy movie, and there's definitely a lot of horror elements in it, especially with that performance by Robert De Niro. That's almost too good. It's almost too good of a performance for that character. But yeah, my number 10 is actually Cherry Falls. This is a very underrated slasher movie. Again, there's when Scream came out, there was all this push. Everybody wanted to make the slasher genre was back in. This one had the late Brittany Murphy in it. Jay Moore's in this. If you don't know the synopsis, it's basically they kind of do a twist on the whole like who gets killed first in a horror movie, and it's just a riot, man. It's an absolute riot. Like how this movie unfolds. Incredible twist ending. And one that's really fun. So this is like a really funny, campy, like horror movie. And if you like slashers and you haven't checked this one out, I definitely think it's worth your time. It's definitely one of the more underrated slasher films in the 90s.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. Oddly enough, I've tried to watch it on like streaming and stuff, but it's hard to find. So I need to find it somewhere and check it out.
It's a great factory actually has a Blu-ray. So that's like it has some really cool like behind the scenes stuff of that too. So it was just a movie again, man. When I was growing up, this was like the horror. A lot of my stuff is going to be this type of subgenre of horror, like the slasher stuff. Just because when Scream came out, they spent about a good 5 to 7 years trying to recreate that magic. So,
number 9 for me is Event Horizon, sci-fi horror movie. Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. It's just one of those like creepy movies. This is one that I didn't see until probably the first time I saw it was probably a few years ago, because I just heard so much about it, and it's got a lot of like similar Alien elements to it, but it's nothing like Alien. Like it's more of like a psychological type thing, and they get to the ship and these weird things, they start seeing stuff and all this weird stuff, and then it just kind of completely just goes like off the rails. But it's great. It's fantastic, and it's one of those movies that you see just great performances from everybody involved. Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne are just fantastic in this. And so if you haven't seen Event Horizon, I definitely suggest checking that one out.
Yeah, I like Event Horizon. It missed my top 10. Which, it didn't even get on my honorable mention, which, until you brought it up, I think I kind of forgot about it. So maybe that's why. I like this movie. Again, I think it's one of those movies that has gained a lot of traction over the years. I actually think people are like discovering it for the first time recently, because I just remember when this movie came out, it didn't have that same pull. And I think after a while, I think it was, you could definitely say this is one of the more underrated of the 90s because, again, I think it's finally hitting its stride with, streaming and everything with people checking it out. And, another movie with Sam Neill that just missed my top 10 and honorable mention was In the Mouth of Madness, which he's in as well. So, again, Sam Neill had a lot of good ones. there in the 90s. My number 9 is Flatliners. This is the one on my list that you could technically say is not really a horror movie. It's more of like a suspense. Not a ton of horror elements in this, but I like the idea of the movie, like a group of like med students that want to kind of create this. They want to try to figure out like this cure to something, if I remember correctly. But basically, they're trying to like they die and then they get brought back, and so for like a minute or two, they get to see what it's like to be dead, and they get to like talk about it, and then people start. They love it so much that they want to keep doing it and kind of push the envelope. So again, great cast here: Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, and it just truly feels like a '90s. It's like a time and a place movie, time capsule movie, I like to call them, where you just watch it, it just exudes that '90s vibe and that '90s aesthetic. So, and also it's really good. I mean, I actually really like it. I think it's got a lot of suspenseful moments and a really good cast. And so, yeah, Flatliners number 9 on my list.
Number 8 for me is the horror comedy that I put on the list, and that is Arachnophobia. This movie to me has got a lot of, I would almost say this is more horror than comedy. John Goodman's character adds most of the punchlines in this. But this movie, especially as a kid, terrified me. And I think it's just one of those things, like, still to this day, I check my shoes to make sure there's not a spider in there somewhere. And it's just got a lot of things, like the spider goes in the football helmet and all this. It just has it does such an amazing job of like capturing why people are scared of spiders, is because they can literally go anywhere. They can be anywhere and they're just out of sight most of the time. So I love this movie. And then the end when the house is just like infested with, I mean, it's just great, so I didn't want to put too many horror comedies on this, but out of this one and Tremors, I felt this one definitely is more of like a horror side to it.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that you have this one in here, not Tremors, because
well, dude, they're two different. Tremors is way more of a comedy than it is a horror movie, and I feel like it's the opposite for Arachnophobia. Like, if you take John Goodman's character out, there's not a ton of comedy in it.
Yeah,
but it's one of those movies that it does have some jokes and stuff here and there. But it's definitely a horror movie.
Well, the 90s was like that too. It had a lot of, the reason there's so many of these, like, is it a horror movie? Is it a thriller? Is it a suspense? Is it a comedy? Because they were really trying to find that right ingredient of, like, the 80s was huge, and, you had all the horror icons and all that stuff, and you could like label that horror. You had that genre, subgenre. But like 90s had a lot of different things going on until, again, we keep talking about it, but until Scream came out, and then that kind of put the flag in the ground of like, okay, this is what we're going to kind of go for the late stage of the 90s. But especially from like 90 to 96, like there was a ton of different variations you could go through. And I don't know if that's like the Stephen King effect or the Goosebumps TV series, the R.L. Stine Goosebumps show, like, because that all kind of played into, it was horror, but there wasn't like that, there was also comedy. There was also like drama. There was also this, and this, So that for me, I mean, do you agree or not agree? Because you're just staring at me. You're just staring right into my soul. What do you think about
it? I've just noticed. I've just noticed that every movie that I pick isn't horror, or isn't. It shouldn't be on the list. And then every movie you pick is like the epitome of horror. And
no, I would agree. Flatliners
should be on the Mount Rushmore.
No, Flatliners is probably shouldn't be on here.
And take it off.
Watch Flatliners. It has a horror smell.
And you don't think Arachnophobia has a horror?
I'd say Arachnophobia is a way more. I'm okay with Arachnophobia being on here.
Oh, okay.
I'm okay with Tremors being on here.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, as long as you're okay with it, I just want to make sure that I don't want my list to put you out.
I'm just wondering what else I'm just wondering when you're going to have a horror movie on your list. I'm just kind of wondering.
3.
Event Horizon horror.
Cape Fear.
I don't know if Cape Fear's a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
You think? I mean, we'll agree to
I guarantee you, it's scarier than Cherry Falls.
No, it's not. Cherry Falls is much scarier. All right, number 8, a true horror movie, Halloween H2O. I really like Halloween H2O, man. I mean, I think people are finally coming around to it. This got a lot of hate for a long time. Like, everybody made fun of Halloween H2O. It was like the popular movie to make fun of for whatever reason. But dude, when this movie even came out, I remember like it rocked. Like, we loved it. Like, and I can speak on this because like this was a movie that came out like at the perfect time for me, and I just thought it was really good. I love the whole angle. I actually think that they portray Laurie Strode in this kind of I prefer this a little bit more. And again, this is a different discussion for a different day. But I actually love the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy that we just got. But Laurie, I didn't like them making her like a Rambo type character. I actually liked how they dealt with her PTSD and her anxiety and all that stuff in this movie. So I actually really liked this one. I thought the cast was good. You got Josh Hartnett in this, Michelle Williams.
Ice Cube.
I
Not Ice Cube,
Nice.
LL Cool
LL
J.
Cool J. Yeah, I was gonna get LL Cool J, who had another great turn in Deep Blue Sea. LL Cool J is great in this. But this movie, I really love this movie a lot. It's some of it's nostalgia, some of it is just a good movie. I think this is a really solid slasher movie, and I think it's a really solid Halloween movie as well. So Halloween H2O could have even been higher, but there's a lot of good ones left. But Halloween H2O number 8.
For me, number 7 is a movie that this is kind of where it got really tough for me to narrow down my list on like what I was going to rank. I knew the movies, but I didn't know which order I wanted to put them in. Number 7 is Urban Legend, and it's one of those movies that again followed that template for Scream, but I think it did some things better than Scream. It has a great cast. It's really funny in parts, and it's just got memorable, like really memorable moments, like Joshua Jackson when he dies is a great moment. The pop rocks, the microwave, like you can just name off all these different things that were all clever and great. And I just love the whole thing. The only negative I kind of have to it is is Jared Leto's character. I hated him so much when the movie came out. I just thought he was such like they made him out to be like this Greek god or something, and he's just some writer. But again, other than that, like I love this movie. I think it's about as close to Scream as I think you can get without completely like copying it, being its own thing. And I think it does a great job. So yeah, Urban Legend for me is number 7.
Yeah, I'm dying to know what 6 could be above. The Urban Legend's on my list, but I'll talk about it more at length when it gets there. But Urban Legend, absolutely fantastic slasher film. I will go into it a little bit more in depth when I get to it on my list.
I knew it'd be on your list. That's why I kind of went a little short on my explanation.
Great movie. Great movie, and I agree with everything you said. I'll just talk about it now. I mean, it's going to show up on my list, but since we're already talking about it, might as well talk about it. But the thing I love about Urban Legend is it definitely, it definitely goes to that formula of like a whodunit. I like how they are in this like isolated college town. I love the setting of this. Kind of has like that autumn fall feel to it. I think that there is some really great characters in this. Not only that, we got Michael Rosenbaum, you got Joshua Jackson, got Alicia Witt, just to name a few. I mean, there's even more off the top of my head I can't think about.
Yeah, and it's just got great moments throughout the entire movie. Like each time that they do a kill, it's something like creative, and it's not campy in a way, but it's memorable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it actually is suspenseful. And Jamie Blanks, who directed this, man, he did this and they did Valentine, which would have been on my list as well, but Valentine came out in 2001. And man, it's wild. We got those two, in my opinion, just like slasher classics.
Well, and it's also
we haven't seen another Jamie like I'm just shocked that he didn't churn out another one because I mean those two were just fantastic. Urban Legend, definitely the better of the two, but
yeah. Well, and it's also got Danielle Harris in it. It's got some great it's got Robert Englund as the professor and stuff like that. So it does a lot of like great even the opening scene. One of the opening scene of that movie is one of the best in horror, I think. I think it's just great.
Chucky, man, who's trying to help her.
Is that who that is?
Red Dwarf. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And he's trying to say like,
yeah,
that's a great scene because like you understand why she's a little freaked out by him. That's a great scene. They got people checking the back of their cars. I mean, people were doing that beforehand, but that like brought that Urban Legend back. And I love how it played on the Urban Legend thing. Just a great movie because it's like a great title, great cast, great kills, tons of rewatchability. And it's on my list, but I wanted to go ahead and talk about it now. When it gets on my list, we won't really touch on it, but since we're already on it. All right, so number 7 for me is House on Haunted Hill. I love House on Haunted Hill, man. I feel like this movie has a ton of atmosphere, and Jeffrey Rush just chews up the scenery every minute he's in the movie. Again, man, the thing I loved about the 90s, the casting was awesome on these movies. They basically went out and got all the best, like, up and coming actors, threw them in a movie together, would grab like a serious, like really well respected actor, throw him in there too, Jeffrey Rush. And man, this movie is just a lot of fun. I mean, this has some great performances. Famke Janssen, who will show up later as well, she was really great in this. Again, we can go on and on about the cast, but I just love the way this movie feels. It's like you're in it. You feel like you're in there. It's like early technology days where people are using camcorders and they're seeing stuff on the camcorders. I love the whole idea of like the rich guy bringing everybody into this house, like this like pseudo reality television experiment, you know. And again, sometimes we talk about this all the time. The scary movie franchise kind of ruins some of these movies for you because they just play up to that so much. But yeah, House on Haunted Hill for me. And I just love it. I just love this movie, and it's one I revisit. I feel like I check this one out once every couple of years, and every time I rewatch, I'm like, damn, dude, that movie was really good.
Yeah, this and The Haunting, I think, came out pretty close together, and there's similar movies. But this one, to me, I like this. Would like if we did like a top 20, this would be in there. This was kind of on my shorter list. But yeah,
The Haunting didn't make my list. But that one is one that definitely takes itself way more seriously.
Yeah.
House on Haunted Hill definitely has fun, and that's what I love about it. That's what makes again, this is my favorites. Because I'm just telling you right now, people are gonna get really pissed off because I don't have a few like absolute amazing movies in here because they're not my favorites, but I think they're great movies. But these are my favorites. So House on Haunted Hill gets to number 7.
All right, so for me, number 6 is a movie that is got a lot of similarities to a movie that came out this year. Me and you talked a little bit about this the other night. This movie is From Dusk Till Dawn, and this is a movie that the first hour is a completely different movie than the second half of this movie. And to me, it's a lot like Sinners. Like when I was watching Sinners, I text you and I was like, man, this is like it has the same beats as From Dusk Till Dawn. And but I think From Dusk Till Dawn does it better. I just think that, they get to this place, they're all kind of drawn there, they're trying to get out of the country or whatever. And and when things hit off, like they just go completely haywire. And I love that. And, George Clooney, like talk about like kind of I don't want to say it was a risky role because he wasn't like a huge movie star at that time, but,
No, he wasn't a movie star. I mean, he was big on ER. Like, and this was kind of his, like, this was him getting into the movies, So, like, this was one of his earlier movie roles.
Yeah, but it's just got, even Quentin Tarantino is his brother, which we won't even get into the fact that he wrote himself into a role that's going to be, sucking Selma Hayek's toes.
Yeah.
Part of the movie, like that wasn't well thought out or anything. Harvey Keitel is fantastic in this. And I just, again, we always talk about, you're much more of a fan of this than me, but you always talk about movies that take place over like one day or take place like in, one or two locations. And this movie to me has just got everything, even the very like last shot where you see that it's like a bigger, a bigger like building or whatever. Is just fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great indie scene. This didn't make my list. And if I'm being totally transparent, a lot of these that didn't make my list that we're talking about could have easily got in there. But I'm glad that ours are different because it gives us a chance to talk about a bunch of different movies. Movie as well. This one, the practical effects age a little bit. Like if you were to watch this now, some of the practical effects happen where somebody gets knocked over and they come up and they got the prosthetics on. But this movie, when it really kicks into high gear, it kicks into high gear hardcore. But I love actually the first half of this movie even more. Like I actually really love the whole first hour of this movie because you're getting to know the characters. And that to me is like super interesting. Like I felt like we could have got a whole movie of that. I just think of the time, like if somebody got to see this movie without knowing that it was a vampire movie, that would have been one of the coolest, like,
oh yeah,
midpoints of a movie of all time. Like, obviously you got to advertise that in the trailers, but I just wonder if anybody out there got to see this movie and did not know that it was going to turn into a vampire movie. Because there's really not a whole lot that tips you off that it's going to be this. Like,
no,
when
you just know
a little bit of that.
You just know that there's something off.
Yeah.
But you don't know what.
Yeah, but that's a good one. That was number 6, right?
Yeah.
Number 6 for me is a movie that I just went, and again, I really, really like this movie. I think it's great. It's my only one that's on here from this director, but I got to go Sleepy Hollow. And this is one that, for me, it's got a ton of atmosphere And I think the reason I go back to this one, I like to personally watch this one around Halloween time. It's just kind of that urban legend of the Headless Horseman and, just Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. I mean, that's just whether you love the movies or maybe they're not for you, they just have this aesthetic to them that just I really like, especially this one. I feel like this is one of Tim Burton's best. Again, dripping with atmosphere, has a great cast. Christopher Walken is absolutely terrifying in this when he shows up in this limited screen time. That always freaked me out. But I just love Johnny Depp's character in this. It's easy to root for him. And he just has that quirkiness to the character. But this movie's got some really good set pieces and some really scary moments, and some moments that are kind of shocking and like, it doesn't lean so heavy into the normal Tim Burton stuff that he's known for. And I think that's why this movie really hits home for me is because it's just enough of that Tim Burton visual stuff for me without going overly into it. And plus, I'm just, again, it's like a staple to watch it every October, just about. So this could have honestly been higher, but it's just one that I don't rewatch as much as some of the other ones. But Sleepy Hollow number 6 for me.
Yeah, number 5 for me is Sleepy Hollow. So everything you said is just, it's like dripping with atmosphere. Like when you watch this movie, especially if you watch it, kind of when it starts getting colder outside and it gets dark earlier and all that, like you just feel like you can almost feel the like temperature of that movie. You know what I mean? Like, and I just think that's one of the best things that you can say about a movie that is trying to go for like a period piece or something like that. But yeah, Johnny Depp, this is probably, I don't want to say my favorite character of his, but it's top 3. Like he's incredible in this. And like you said, he's easy to root for. He's not one of those, he's not like this brute guy that can like beat up anybody. He's like a scientist. And I just think that's great. And Casper Van Dien's in this movie. He has kind of a memorable little death in there. And but yeah, just everything you said, I completely agree with it. I struggled with putting it at 5 because I really love this movie. It's just 1 through 5 is just so hard to pick and choose between.
Yeah, and I kind of cheated on number 5 because I didn't say this at the beginning, I don't think, and if I did, I'm going to repeat myself. I tried to not put sequels on here, meaning if I had one from a franchise, I didn't want to have 2 from one franchise in my top 10. That was like my goal. But the reason I'm cheating is just because I want to talk about this movie, and I'm not sure if it's on your list. So the reason I'm going to cheat a little bit is I'm going to name 2 movies on number 5. So if I can't, I put Scream 2 slash I Know What You Did Last Summer at 5. And the reason being is because we just got done talking a little bit about I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I kind of wanted to find a reason to talk about Scream 2 because I love Scream 2, but I wanted to stay true to my list. And obviously, I've been talking about Scream the whole time. It's going to be in my top 5. So, real quick, I Know What You Did Last Summer, to me, I don't personally think it's like one of the 10 best horror movies of the 90s. In fact, there's a lot on my list that I would argue is not the best, but they're just movies that I constantly find myself going back to, and I am a sucker for the slasher genre, especially, again, if we did the 80s list, there'd be a ton of the same franchise on that one, which we'll do eventually. But I Know What You Did Last Summer just because it's got, it really kind of has everything I want. It's set during a holiday, which I really love that. I love how it's got like 4 main actors who you truly don't know while you're watching it. Like they all, aside from maybe Ryan Phillippe at the time, like those 3 top actors, including Phillippe a little bit, you really didn't know who was going to survive out of the 4 because it's like 4 really popular up and coming actors, which really added suspense the first time you watch it. But the rewatchability that gets me back all the time is the setting. And obviously, I just have a lot of fun with this movie. I think the Sarah Michelle Gellar chase scene about midway through the movie is really well done. I think that's like the highlight of the movie, and the movie kind of trails off towards the end because they just can't top that scene. But I love the whole build up to it. I love how they actually go into like the guilt of what that characters are feeling and stuff like that. And then Scream 2, if I was able to put 2 from one franchise on here, I just think Scream 2, while it doesn't reach the same heights as Scream, I actually really enjoy. I think this one can almost be just as rewatchable as number 1, maybe even more rewatchable, just because there's so many more like moments. I feel like there's more deaths in this one, more kills, and more inventive ones as well. Where the first one, it was more about like that Drew Barrymore sequence just kind of sticks in everybody's mind. But this one, the opening scenes from this one is Not as strong as that one, but if they would have been flipped, like this one would have caught on big time because this opening sequence is insane. It's like amazing. It's like a little short movie.
Yeah.
And again, I just wanted to talk about both those movies, and I feel like they're kind of like they came out right at the same time because they were just churning these out. Like once Scream came out, it was like Scream 2, Scream 3, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then the next year was I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. So I wanted an excuse to talk about both. So I kind of took a liberty there with both of those. So those are my number fives.
Number 4 for me is probably my second favorite David Fincher movie, and that's Seven. Again, I was thinking about this as I was coming up with this list. This movie, if you really think about it, I don't think it shows any of the like kills. It doesn't show any of the people that are getting murdered or anything. It doesn't show it. It shows you the aftermath. And even the aftermath is like horrifying. And I just love the dynamic of Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt in this. They're just so good as like the old veteran and the young guy who's trying to like find his way and trying to, he wants to get out there and do stuff. And Morgan Freeman's kind of like, hey man, we got to like, be patient and this and that. And like one of my favorite scenes in this movie is the one where they're talking about, he says something about a book and Morgan Freeman's like, come with me. And they go to the library and they're like paying this guy who's, he ends up being he's the guy from Batman Begins, who's like the shady cop. They pay him off to like find out who's looking up these certain books that align with the 7 deadly sins. And just that scene to me is like one of my favorites. And, again, it's got one of the best like twist endings, or one of the most like, I don't want to say like it's definitely disturbing, but it's one of those where like you completely understand what's going through Brad Pitt's head at that moment. And I just love this movie so much. It's one of my like all-time favorite movies, and I had to put it at least
all-time favorites, and it was number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't. I guess I don't. Again, I totally think this belongs in a horror-esque genre. I just wasn't like for whatever reason when I'm thinking of this movie, I don't know. That's what's tricky about the horror list. Like this didn't even pop into my mind because I'm thinking of this as like a crime thriller. So like again,
and it could be.
It is. I think it's totally fine that it's on the list. But I'm saying, obviously, I think this is one of the best movies of the '90s. I want to make sure I put that out there because people are going to see my top 4 and they're going to be like,
you know what's funny is earlier you were making fun of my list, and then now
No, I'm just making fun of. I'm not making fun. I'm just saying some of these are bordering on like we're stretching what. And again, that's the thing with the genre. Like it's tough. The '90s was tough. If we did an '80s one, it'd be way easier.
Yeah.
The '90s was a difficult one because there was a lot of like you didn't know. Like there was horror in there, but you just didn't know. And plus, it's like video store days. What was really in what section?
I put most of thrillers into the horror section. Most of them. Now you have movies like The Game and different things that are strictly in a thriller section. But really, if you broke it down like comedy, drama, horror, action, like it's going to fall in horror 100%.
Yeah. I mean, again, even though I don't consider it, like when I'm thinking of Seven, I'm not thinking it's a horror. Like I don't personally consider it a horror, but I'm okay with it being in the list. And I also am okay with saying that obviously it's not going to be on my list for the reasons I just mentioned, but definitely one of the best movies of the 90s. I mean, that's a given. I mean, if anybody says otherwise, they're lying. Now, if it's not a movie you want to revisit, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But you can't doubt the. It's just masterful. So that was number 4, right?
Yeah.
Number 4 on mine is going to be Child's Play 2, and I was going back and forth. 1 and 2 are.
That's just so funny, man. You're giving me the riot act about what to be on a horror list for 7, and then you come back with it with Child's Play 2.
Yeah, and I go back and forth with 3 and 4. I actually have Child's Play 2 at number 3, but at number 4 it's something else. But just right now, I just switched them, just because you'll see. But Child's Play 2, man, is for the longest time I thought Bride of Chucky was actually my personal favorite Chucky movie, and I could do a whole Chucky list. Like I love the Chucky franchise. I love the TV series, so to only be able to put one Chucky on here was very difficult, but I chose this one over Bride of Chucky because this is just the essential Chucky movie. Like if I was to if somebody had never seen a Chucky movie and they asked me like what's the one Chucky movie to tell somebody to watch to see if they will become a fan of the franchise, 1000% I'm picking Child's Play 2. It is honestly as close to a perfect slasher movie as there can be because the main characters are really great and well written. There is some great performances here for this type of movie. Again, Brad Dourif as Chucky. This is like the Chucky that he just goes all out. It's kind of like the Friday the 13th franchise. Where number 2 you got Jason, but not until like number 3 did you really feel like you got what became what Jason was throughout. And that's how Child's Play 2 was. Child's Play 1 obviously was really a good movie, but Child's Play 2 just ups everything to 11. It's like, and it just looks great. It holds up extremely well. The whole final act in the toy store is just amazing. It's like one of the best scenes in horror, in my opinion. And it's just a fun movie that I rewatch all the time. And again, one day we'll do a whole Child's Play watch party or something, or Child's Play like ranking, because I just think it's an extremely strong franchise. But Child's Play 2, shout out to Bride of Chucky because I love Bride of Chucky as well, but I'm sticking to having one on from a franchise on here. But Child's Play 2 at number 4 definitely could have been number 3 because 1 and 2 are pretty solid for me, but definitely I could have switched to 3 and 4.
Number 3 for me is probably the best movie on my list. If you're just saying what like just rating it as like a pure movie experience, this won I think several Academy Awards, and I just to this day like I can rewatch it and still be creeped out and scared. Is Silence of the Lambs, and I don't know if it's because of Anthony Hopkins' just brilliant performance. I mean, there's just nothing that can compare to what he did. Although I will say that Brian Cox in Mindhunter, which came out in the 80s, is also fantastic. But this is just like, to me, the epitome of what you should have. You have a guy who is locked in a cell that can't harm you in any way, and yet he terrifies you. Like there's that one scene where the guy that like says something to Jodie Foster's character as she's leaving, and he ends up making the guy kill himself, and they're in opposite cells. Like that just shows you how diabolical and how genius he is. And then Buffalo Bill, one of the creepiest villains ever. And I felt like it had so much going for it. Jodie Foster is fantastic. And there's just not even the small performance. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. What's the guy's name? He's the head. He's like Jodie Foster's boss. What's the actor's name? Scott Glenn.
Oh yeah.
Scott Glenn is fantastic. It's just up and down this movie. There's just amazing performances, and this is one where it's not only an amazing horror movie, in my opinion, it's a great movie. Like you could watch this and just be, amazed at how everything falls together. And I just can't say enough good things about this movie. It's one that I can rewatch multiple times. It is a little tough, but it's one of those things where like I'll probably skip around to the parts that I just absolutely love. So
Yeah, it's not on my list, but it's up there again. I do think this is definitely a horror movie.
And I think the thing is when we were making these lists, you said probably 20 times how much you hated making this list.
Yeah, because I wanted initially we were gonna do a slasher one, and again, I'm glad we did it. It challenges me to narrow this down to a top 10, but depending on the day, this again, number 1's probably gonna stay number 1, but all the other there's changes I can make throughout the list, but yeah, it's been very difficult. 90s horror was very difficult. And again, it's mainly because, like I said, sometimes I don't even think of, that is a horror movie, Silence of the Lambs, But Silence of the Lambs probably went, again, great movie. If I had to do a best of list, probably makes my top 10. This just isn't a movie I enjoy very much, to be totally honest with you.
It's a tough watch.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's okay. I think we need to be okay with being like, you know what? We know that movie's great, but I don't enjoy it. I'm not I don't want to watch it. And that's kind of how I feel about Silence of the Lambs. Is like it was a one and done for me. Great movie. I'll defend that, and I'll be like, okay, but it's just a movie I've never revisited since. And if I see it on TV, I usually just keep on rolling. You know what I mean? Limp Bizkit style. All right, number 3 for me, Urban Legend. So we got the Urban Legend. We already talked about it, so we won't talk about it again. But I just want to say, Urban Legend is just everything that I personally love in a 90s horror movie. And I love all the different subgenres of horror, but I tend to revisit the slasher genre more than any other genre. I think it's an easy watch. It doesn't get too disturbing. At least, again, it can with like movies like Terrifier and stuff like that. Uh, but I just like how it's kind of a oddly enough like this weird like comfort movie for me. Like it's just a movie that like I like to have on. It's like it's again I think it's the autumn vibes. I think it's the autumn vibes, man.
Yeah, I'm the weirdo.
I don't know, man. It was one of those. You know how it is. When you see a movie for the first time.
It is a movie
when this
that
came out, I was probably 8 or 9 years, and it just had a big impact on me because it was one of those movies that I was just loved so much, and I've held that love for it.
It is a movie that you don't think too deeply
yeah.
what's going. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Sounds of the Lambs and Seven. They're pretty heavy movies if you really start thinking about what goes into each of these.
Yeah, and I just think about like this is when I was watching movies before I was watching like critiquing movies, I guess you could say. Like this is back when I was literally just watching movies and I wasn't thinking about like the review, or I wasn't thinking about like how I felt about it. It was just like, oh, dude, this movie's like the best thing I've ever seen. Like this is amazing. So a lot of this is that time and play, like where were you? Who'd you see it with? Type of thing that I think going into a lot of what our favorites end up being. But yeah, Urban Legend, just a perfect slasher in my opinion. Love this movie, and number 3. I'm glad it was on your top 10.
Number 2 for me, and I'm assuming we have the same 1 and 2. I'm not sure which will be which, but number 2 for me is Scream.
There's one on your list that you're gonna be mad that you forgot about. We'll get to it, but there's one you're leaving off that I think you forgot about.
Maybe. Number 2, Scream for me is just a movie that, like you said, it revitalized that entire genre of movies. It had a fresh take. It almost made fun of kind of that whole genre. It made fun of kind of, all of those plot points and all of those scenarios. But did something so new that they're still making them. And they're still, they're not what they were when this first came out, but they're still popular movies and they're still good movies. But this just did so many things that were just at the time just so fresh and new. And the whole thing of the twist of having, 2 killer, that blew my mind, that was even a possibility. Cause you didn't really see that. And again, young cast, all of these people were up and coming. The fact that they killed off probably their most famous actor in the first 10 minutes. Again, just everything about this movie is to me iconic, and I don't think you can have a top 10 without it being somewhere near the top. And this movie just checks every single one of those boxes for me.
Yeah, I mean, Scream's incredible. I mean, I think that I think now like people, and again, Scary Movie, it affected the legacy of it because again, people look at that and they're kind of like laugh. It's kind of like you're not gonna ever watch Scream and be scared. I'll put it that way. That time has passed. But when this movie came out, it was scary because, again, it was the whole telephone, it's back before cell phones, so people were calling. Again, this was a perfect time to come out for me. One of the first, horror type movies I ever got to see. And the brilliance of it, though, was that these characters were smart. These characters, they still did stupid stuff in the movie, but they were aware of other horror movies. They were aware it's very meta. Now it's been done so much that if you were to watch it today, it wouldn't have that same impact. But I think that's what keeps drawing people back is because the cast was just casted perfectly. Wes Craven directed the hell out of it. The opening sequence alone just made it an instant classic. But the rest of the movie is super strong. And again, Matthew Lillard, Skeet Ulrich, David Arquette, Courtney Cox. I mean, dude, Nev Campbell, Jamie Kennedy. I mean, again, you think about how great of a cast this is and how just it's a staple in the genre. And I think there was something for everybody. People that grew up with the 80s, the Michael Myers, the Jason Voorhees, the Freddy Kruegers. This was cool to see this type of genre get reinvigorated because that was at the tail end of all those guys' heyday. But it was also a way to introduce a whole new generation to this genre in and of itself. So this movie by itself during this time was able to get that slasher genre back. So we owe a lot to this movie for reinvigorating it enough to where we still get Jason movies, we still get Michael Myers, we still get Freddy Krueger and all this stuff, you know. So yeah, but yeah, so my number, that was your number two. My number two is The Faculty. So The Faculty, I'm wearing the shirt. The Faculty is one that just it's the most rewatchable on the list, I think.
Far.
When I look at all the different stuff on the list, you know, and I keep going back to, and that's what I notice about myself. I love a good cast. I love a good cast of characters. Like if I love the characters and I want to hang out with those characters, that's what makes a movie for me my favorite and makes me want to rewatch it over and over and over again. And this cast is awesome. I mean, Elijah Wood, Josh Hartnett, who, like again, man, Josh Hartnett's having his comeback right now, and he's just crushing it and everything. But dude, Josh Hartnett used to be like just heartthrob material. Like people wanted to just cast him as like the heartthrob, and it was just so funny because like, you know, he just had messed up hair. He just kind of just didn't give a shit, and a lot of his role, he kind of got typecast a little bit. And I really respect how he kind of got out of that. But this movie is just so cool. He just plays that part of Zeke perfectly. I mentioned Famke Janssen in this. The teachers in this almost made as good as the kids, the high school students are. Robert Patrick, you know, just
Selma Hayek,
yeah, just great cast, and
Jon Stewart.
Yeah, and it's a throwback to those like 50, you know, those 50s and 60s creature features. Robert Rodriguez, you know, again, I believe this was Dimension Films where they were making all kinds of movies like this, but just a super rewatchable movie. The CGI is dated, obviously, at this point.
I will say that they only show that in like a small portion of the movie, so it doesn't ruin it. But yeah, it does. You know, it does age. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just again, it's a time capsule movie for me. I mean, you got Usher in this movie. You know, you got just it's just a fun movie. It breezes through its running time. The characters are great. You got Shooter McGavin in this. I forgot.
Yeah, he's Elijah Wood's dad.
Dad in this. So you had that whole angle of like. It was that perfect genre of like nobody's believing anything the kids are saying. Everything, you know, everybody's turning into these brain eating, you know, monsters and stuff. It had everything I want. It had humor, it had action, it had suspense, it had horror in it. And again, I can't stress enough. It's mainly because how much fun it is and the characters. And I love the high school setting. And it's just one of my all-time favorite movies, period. But got number two on my list. It would normally be number one if number one wasn't, you know, just what it was. But number two, and like I told you earlier, one and two are pretty solidified for me from like my favorite of the 90s.
Yeah. So number one for me, I'm wondering what you thought would be on my list. It's not, but number one for me is The Faculty.
Well, I can tell you now that you mentioned it, but I wanted to hear what you say about The Faculty. But I thought Blair Witch Project would be on here.
You know, it almost was. It's just because I haven't really revisited that movie in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
But when it first came out, that movie terrified me.
Yeah.
And
so that's one that's like more of a movie memory than as opposed to a movie you really love.
Yeah, I would never rewatch that now.
Okay,
like
that's the one I thought would be on your list that didn't. But anyway, we'll talk about that at the very end. But go ahead with Faculty. Number one on your list?
So number one for me is The Faculty. Everything you said, I can't agree more. It's just I can watch this at any time of the year. Somebody says, "Hey man, you want to watch Faculty?" I will never say no. Like I love this movie so much. There's so much like going on, but yet they do a great job of like one of my favorite scenes is the very beginning of the movie when they're kind of showing like they'll show like 3 seconds or 5 seconds of a person and then they'll shoot their name up.
Yeah.
And you instantly know like what that person is or what that person's going to be doing. And I just everything about it just screams like 90s. And
they even basically like say like, hey, this is who that character is. Like, you know that Casey's the nerd of the group. You know that Zeke's like the outcast or the bad boy or whatever. You know that Jordana Brewster, I forgot to mention her, she's like the most popular girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I agree. I think that was a nice way to kind of be like, yeah, these are going to be kind of like one note characters, but throughout the course of the movie, you know, they end up loving every single one of them.
And they also, I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays like the jock.
Yeah.
And, you know, he quits the team and then it shows him like in class and he's trying to like answer the questions and he's getting them all wrong or whatever, you know, but there's just so much about this movie that it never drags. Like this movie, as soon as it starts, the very opening scene is fantastic. And then it just keeps going the entire way. And you don't really know you don't really know at first like what's going on. You're like, okay, that's kind of weird that that teacher, we just saw her get hurt or whatever, and now she's fine. And then they do little things like they have the coach out on the field with the sprinklers on, and he's just staring at people, like stuff like that. That if you did it today, people would be like, "Man, that's so stupid." But
that's the brilliance of it. Is like this movie is a B. This is really a B sci-fi movie, like a sci-fi horror movie, like, and it was almost an homage to that old school genre of like these drive-in sci-fi type films. And just, told modernly, but I think that's what adds to the charm is the movie knows what it is and it kind of embraces it. It doesn't try to hide from it, where some of these movies take themselves a bit too seriously. I kind of talked about that when I Know What You Did Last Summer a little bit. It kind of gets a little heavy handed with like how serious it takes itself.
Yeah, this never.
That's what I'm saying. This has fun the whole way, and not saying that it doesn't have those suspenseful moments, but this movie knows exactly what it's going for and just does that extremely well.
The only thing that irritates me about this movie, the only negative I have about this movie, is that Jordana Brewster and Elijah Wood end up together at the end. That to me, like, that's just, it's more believable that aliens come and take over a high school.
Elijah Wood, man.
I don't care. I don't care. She didn't know that. To her, he's just some nerd
hero, man. After the end of the movie, he's like on every front page of the news.
Yeah, but
come on, man.
He's still a nerd, and he's still short.
No, but he's still what? So what? That's I mean, that's a horrible thing to say. This shouldn't even get to be number one on your list if you think that about that character. Because he's
a great character, but that doesn't mean he gets to date nines.
He deserves her
nines and tens.
It's a horrible thing to say. A nerd and short. That's what they cast.
Okay, but I'm saying you can be a nerd and short, but maybe you don't go date Homecoming Queen after that. That's not going to happen.
Well, she was tired of dating and she wanted something different. She wanted a different flavor.
Then she goes for Josh Hartnett.
No, Josh Hartnett was like 20 years old. Yeah. Josh Hartnett was held back a couple times.
And that's another thing is how is he able to still play football? They said he was like 20 years old. He's at the end, he's back on the team.
So you're asking all the wrong questions, man. You're going too deep.
But I love this movie so much. I could go on for days.
Yeah. Well, I number one we've already talked about, but number one, Scream for me, and it's just again we already talked about it ad nauseum, but just a great slasher movie. Just reinvigorated the genre. Just an absolute classic. Everything you could possibly want if you're into these type of movies. And even if you're not, I think that's what makes it special is people that aren't even into horror movies love Scream. I think it's just a crowd-pleasing movie. And again, the cast is just sensational. Again, Matthew Lillard.
I think something else that is great about it is even after you know the twist and who's the killer and all that, it still doesn't take away any bit from the movie. Like everything is still like fresh and you almost kind of sit there and be like, man, I wonder who, there's videos and.
Yeah, you come back again, when you watch like a Friday the 13th movie, you're going back to kind of see the Jason kills. Like that's what gets the rewatchability is the over the top kills. When you go rewatch a Scream movie, you're rewatching it for those characters, like the characters you like, and again, that's why these movies, it's so important to cast these almost perfectly. And again, Scream, I think you could argue is like one of the best cast movies of all time. Just with how every single person in there literally went on to have like a pretty steady movie career for 20 years,
Yeah, but it is funny how much Scary Movie has diminished not diminished, but has kind of.
No, but that just shows you how popular. They made a whole nother genre of movie, a spoof on these movies based on the popularity of Scream. And so, I've never seen anything like Scream that just literally just made so much more money, made more money in the following weekends than it did its opening weekend. It's like unheard of. So, but again, it could have been on there. The only movie that I didn't have on my list that when we were talking about The Faculty, I just don't think it's a great movie, but I have fun with is like a disturbing behavior type of movie. Just because it's that same type of genre of Faculty of like that, B movie sci-fi. But yeah, Scream number one, like I said, our 1 and 2 were about the same, which didn't shock me just because we're brothers, so it's going to make sense. We watched a lot of these movies together. Yeah. But I will say there's a lot more variety on our list than I thought there would be. So that was pretty interesting when it goes from 10 to like 3,
Yeah, for sure. And I knew that you would have some because you like Cherry Falls and Flatliners. I haven't seen those, so I definitely need to check those out. But yeah, earlier you were like, man, we need to do a top 10 slashers of the 90s. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like, dude, I don't know if I can come up with 10 and you're like, all right, top 5. And I was like, okay, I felt like they would kind of be the same movies. So I'm glad that we decided on.
Well, what I'll probably do is later on we'll probably do some specific once it gets closer, in the fall time, we'll do some specific franchise or something. Maybe that'll get you an excuse to finish up some franchises. Like do a whole Chucky list or do a whole Scream ranking. Just for fun. That would be kind of cool to do ones where it's like that. But again, the '90s was just a really cool time for me for horror. All the decades have something that I love, but '90s for me, even though '80s is known as like the slasher decade, '90s for me kind of had that vibe because those are the ones I like grew up with. So those,
I think the '90s is the most diverse. Like it has the most like wide range of genres, because like you said with Blair Witch Project, that was right at the end of the '90s, '99. And that started the whole found footage thing. And I mean, found footage went pretty much all through 2000.
Yeah, that's what you get a lot of the 2000s. That'd be a fun one to do as well. So we'll do more of these throughout the decades. We'll do more specific ones as well. So we'll have those coming up. We had a few in there that I think people might not have even ever seen or haven't revisited in a long time. So hopefully, if you're watching this gives you a few movies to check out. So any closing words on your top 10 90 horror movies?
No, I mean, we didn't have as much crossover as I thought we would, which was cool. I knew you'd have. Obviously, the top 2 I knew would be up there. Sleepy Hollow. I was surprised that you had I Know What You Did Last Summer ahead of Urban Legend.
I didn't have it ahead.
I had
I Know What You Did Last Summer at 5. And if I'm being totally honest with you, what happened there is that I had Scream 2 there the entire time, and then I remembered my rule that I think we talked about off camera, where I was like, I'm just going to pick one from each franchise because I want to kind of save that for But I didn't want to not have I Know What You Did Last Summer at all. So I kind of forgot to put it on the list. And so I Know What You Did Last Summer would probably be closer to 9 or 10.
So where did you have Urban Legend?
Urban Legend was number 4.
Oh, okay.
Actually, Urban Legend was number 3 because I switched that in Child's Play at the last minute. Again, depending on the day, I could switch those out. 1 and 2, I feel pretty strong about staying where they're at. Yeah. But for me, like 3 to 5 could like alternate because I do love Scream 2 as well. But again, I wanted to kind of stick to but
there was enough variety in this decade that you didn't have to put sequels.
Yeah, so if I just off the top of my head, if I had to switch anything, I'd probably just have I Know What You Did Last Summer, probably around 10 or 9, and then just move some other stuff up or and again, mine's a little bit different. You had more of the like definitely prestige horror movies, like because I was thinking, that I would love to do a thrillers one down the line too, because that one, that's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking of like 7, or I'm thinking of like Pacific Heights or whatever. There's like that's another like huge list of movies because '90s had incredible thrillers. So maybe that's one we'll visit down the line as well. So, but yeah, I tried to stick to this top 10. So I'm already looking, and there's definitely ones I want to change.
Yeah, you'll be losing sleep tonight.
But we can rest assured that for the most part, my top 5 feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah.
So, but all right, that will do it for this episode of Movie Retreat. Definitely follow along, whether you catch this on, our YouTube channel, whether you caught it on a clip or a short or something like that. Definitely follow us along. We'll be doing more. We're going to keep it rolling, and let us know what some of your favorite 90s horror movies are. Obviously, we're going to miss a few that you would probably have on your list. So definitely let us know in the comments below which ones we missed or which ones you would have had higher than the other. Definitely want to hear from everyone on this one. So thank you so much for watching. Chris, any last words?
No.
All righty. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.